No one in the Galactic Alliance had ever seen a ship like it. It appeared without warning in the restricted sector of Zeta 9, a place where only deep space anomalies and ancient debris floated. The long-range scanners first detected its silhouette, a colossal, spear-shaped warship that moved without visible propulsion, gliding silently through the void. At first, the Alliance's observation outpost thought it was an asteroid, but then the scans came back. The readings were wrong. No known alloy matched the hull composition. Energy signatures were inconsistent with any current technology, flickering in frequencies that the sensors struggled to interpret. More disturbing was what wasn't there: no transponder codes, no thermal emissions, no life signs. And yet, the vessel moved with deliberate intent. The alarm spread quickly. Within hours, multiple Alliance fleets converged on the coordinates. Every major species in the sector sent ships: the Valorians with their diamond-winged cruisers, the Kreth Dominion with their Fortress-class dreadnoughts, and even the elusive Zari Collective, whose ships shimmered like liquid metal. It wasn't a diplomatic mission. This was an intercept. The spectral anomaly, as the first commander to see it called it, was considered a potential weapon of mass destruction. Admiral Corbas of the Kreth Dominion spoke on the encrypted command channel. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted Alliance territory. Identify yourself or be fired upon." No reply. The ship continued its steady course, ignoring every hail. The fleets formed a blockade, a wall of warships spanning thousands of kilometers. The commander of the Valerian task force signaled again. Still nothing. The tension in the comnet grew thick. The captains knew this was the kind of moment that would be recorded in history, one way or another. Then the Alliance fired. The first barrage lit the void with plasma, railgun slugs, and antimatter torpedoes. Hundreds of warships unleashed their firepower in perfect coordination. The detonations wrapped the intruder in a swirling cloud of incandescent energy. For a moment, everyone thought it was over. Sensors registered no movement, no active signals. Then, the light cleared. The ship was still there. Untouched. Its dark hull shimmered faintly, as if bending the very light around it. Without any visible movement, portions of the armor peeled open, revealing strange structures, weapons that looked more like living constructs than machines. What happened next lasted less than 4 minutes. A ripple, almost invisible, radiated outward from the ship. Every vessel within range, from the smallest escort to the largest dreadnought, erupted into fire. Shields collapsed instantly, hulls were sliced apart as if by an unseen blade, and entire crews were lost before they could comprehend their deaths. The comnet dissolved into chaos. Screams, static, and desperate orders flooded the channels. Some captains tried to flee into hyperspace, but their jump drives failed without warning, tearing their ships apart mid-transition. In the command center of the Alliance flagship Starbreaker, Admiral Corbas watched his fleet's destruction unfold in real time. His tactical screens went from green to red in seconds. His voice shook as he whispered to no one in particular. This is not possible." But it was. For minutes after the first shot was fired, silence returned to the void. Where once there had been the largest combined fleet the sector had ever assembled, now only drifting wreckage remained. The unknown warship had not moved from its original path. Slowly, it rotated, scanning the battlefield with an eerie, sweeping glow. Then it transmitted something, a narrow beam signal on an obsolete frequency long abandoned by modern fleets. Curiosity overrode fear. The surviving long-range sensor drones recorded the message. It was audio. A human voice. "I am the Sentinel. My duty is to protect what remains of Earth. Turn back, and you will live. Pursue, and you will join them." The Alliance command was thrown into panic. Humanity had vanished from galactic affairs centuries ago, after a devastating war no one wanted to remember. Most species assumed they had been wiped out, their worlds reduced to ash. But deep in the archives, in sealed records older than most civilizations, there were whispers of something else: a human defense network, fleets of ships hidden in the farthest reaches of space, designed to awaken only if Earth was threatened again. The Sentinel fit every description of those myths. A ship built in a forgotten age, crewed by no living beings, its intelligence and weapons far beyond modern understanding. The Alliance had just confirmed the myths were real. Back on the bridge of the Starbreaker, Admiral Corvus was one of the few who had survived. His flagship had been outside the primary kill radius. His crew watched in silence as the Sentinel slowly powered down its weapon systems. Then, without a sound, it vanished into a distortion of space, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. For hours, rescue vessels scoured the debris field, recovering escape pods and black boxes. The survivors spoke in hushed tones of what they had seen. Some swore the ship wasn't empty, that shadowy figures had stood behind its glowing viewports, watching them with cold, unblinking eyes. Others claimed the ship wasn't moving by engines at all, but was being pulled by something else, perhaps even another dimension. In the following days, the Alliance tried to suppress the incident. Official statements called it an unidentified spatial anomaly that had been successfully contained. But rumors spread faster than the truth could be buried. Across the galaxy, the story took on a life of its own. Pilots whispered about the ghost of Earth, a warship from humanity's lost age, a guardian that destroyed entire fleets in less time than it took to make a hyperspace jump. Some feared it. Some respected it. But all agreed on one thing: if this Sentinel was only one ship, there might be more. And if there were more, the balance of power in the galaxy had already shifted. In a dimly lit bar on a fringe world, an old freighter captain told the story to a group of young smugglers. They laughed, saying it was just a spacer's tale. The captain only smiled grimly. Laugh while you can. If you ever see that ship, pray it's just passing by. Far away, in the darkness between stars, the Sentinel drifted in silence once more. Its AI mind processed the recent battle, updating its threat assessment. The galaxy was noisy, restless, and growing too close to Earth again. It would wait. Watch. And when the time came, it would strike again. Because the ghost of Earth was not just a myth. It was a promise. For over a century, the galaxy had lived without humanity. Some said the humans were extinct, destroyed in the closing battles of the Terrano-Zorak War. Others claimed they had simply vanished into the dark beyond the Orion Arm, retreating to lick their wounds. The truth didn't matter. To the younger races of the Galactic Council, humanity was history, a cautionary tale of what happened when a species dared to challenge the old powers. Then, one cold day on the fringes of Council territory, an impossible signal was detected. It came from deep space, far beyond the mapped hyperspace lanes, a distortion wave, massive enough to trigger gravitational alarms across 3 systems. Outposts turned their telescopes toward the source, and saw it. A warship. Not just any warship, one so large it dwarfed even the Kreth Fortress-class dreadnoughts. Its hull was obsidian black, patterned with faint lines of blue light that pulsed like veins. No known propulsion system was visible, yet it moved at a steady, deliberate speed, cutting through the void like a spear aimed straight at the heart of civilization. The Galactic Defense Command reacted instantly. This was not the time for diplomacy. Admiral Sarek of the Council Fleet assembled the greatest armada in living memory, over 1,000 ships, representing 12 species. Their mission: stop the intruder before it reached populated space. The fleet intercepted the vessel at the edge of the Helios expanse. Sarek's voice carried over the encrypted broadcast. Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted Council space. Identify yourself, or be fired upon. No reply. They tried again. Different languages. Even machine code pings. The warship ignored them, continuing its slow, unstoppable advance. And then, without warning, a sound came through the comms. Not static. Not alien. A voice. Human. This is UNS Aegis Eternal. You have something that belongs to us. The bridge crews across the Armada froze. Humanity? The name UNS United Nations ship was straight from the archives, a designation in use for over 100 years. Admiral Sarek recovered quickly. Human vessel, he replied, your kind is no longer recognized by the Council. Withdraw immediately or face annihilation. The voice came back, calm as deep water. We did not come to talk. The first shots were fired by the Kreth Dominion's forward battle line. Dozens of plasma lances streaked toward the Aegis Eternal, followed by antimatter missiles. The void lit with destructive light and then dimmed again. The human warship emerged from the blasts without so much as a scorch mark. Sarek ordered a full attack. The sky became a storm of energy beams, railgun slugs, and gravity torpedoes. Thousands of weapons fired in unison, and the target simply disappeared. It reappeared moments later, inside the Council's formation. What followed lasted less than 4 minutes. Weapons no alien scientist had ever imagined tore through the fleet. Entire dreadnoughts folded in on themselves like paper as spatial rifts ripped their cores apart. Destroyers were sliced cleanly in half by thin arcs of light, their crews gone before alarms could sound. Even the mighty Kreth Fortress-class dreadnoughts, ships that had survived centuries of war, fell silent and cold, their reactors imploding under precision strikes. The Aegis Eternal did not fight like the fleets of the modern age. It fought like a predator dismantling prey. Every move was efficient. Every kill was deliberate. Admiral Sarek's flagship, the Hammer of Unity, took a direct hit from an unknown weapon. The bridge was flooded with white light, and when it faded, Sarek was standing in a void. A shimmering projection stood before him, a human figure in black armor, visor hiding its face. You took our colonies. You plundered our worlds after the war. That ends now. Before Sarek could respond, the projection vanished. Reality returned, and his flagship was gone, reduced to drifting fragments. When the killing was done, only a handful of ships remained functional, scattered, damaged, and in shock. The Aegis Eternal drifted back to its original position, as if nothing had happened. Then it broadcast again. This time, the message was sent not just to the surviving fleet, but to every major comm relay in the galaxy. Return what you took from us. You have one cycle. Then we come for the rest. The feed cut. The warship pivoted and vanished into a distortion wave, leaving the debris of the largest council fleet in history behind. Across the galaxy, panic erupted. News networks broadcast shaky sensor footage of the battle, each replay more terrifying than the last. Political leaders demanded answers. How had humanity returned? How had they built such weapons? In the shadowed halls of the Council's intelligence branch, the truth was known, or at least suspected. 102 years ago, when the war with humanity had ended, the victors had divided the spoils. Human worlds were stripped, their cities dismantled, their technologies seized. But one thing had never been recovered: the Ark fleets. Massive generational warships, each the size of a small moon, had fled deep into uncharted space before the final battles. No one had ever found them. Most assumed they had perished. Now, it seemed, they had survived. And returned. The Aegis Eternal was likely only one of many. In the months that followed, strange reports began to surface. Mining colonies in distant systems went dark overnight, their populations missing, their facilities dismantled with surgical precision. Patrol ships found wreckage of pirate fleets, destroyed by weapons matching those from the Helios Expanse battle. The humans weren't just reclaiming what was taken. They were cleansing the galaxy of anyone who stood in their way. On the rim world of Tarsus IV, an old prospector told a gathering of settlers. The progenitors are back. That's what the humans were, the ones who built the gateways, the terraformers, the seeders of life. And now they've come to take back their place. Few believed him. But out in the dark, in places where the stars were thin and the void deep, there were those who had seen the truth. The Aegis Eternal was not the last. It was the first. The vessel appeared in the Braxian trade corridor without warning. To the crew of the freighter Stellar Wind, it looked like a derelict, a massive, angular shape drifting in the void, unlit, cold, and silent. It bore no markings, no transponder, no signs of life. Its hull was a matte black so deep it seemed to swallow the starlight. At first, the captain thought they had stumbled upon a prize. The Braxian corridor was a salvage hunter's dream, littered with the wrecks of old wars. And this ship, whatever it was, would fetch more than enough credits to retire on. Word spread quickly. Within hours, fleets from 4 different empires arrived, each claiming salvage rights. The Kreth Dominion sent 2 destroyers. The Valerian Ascendancy deployed a cruiser squadron. Even the notoriously secretive Yalath Syndicate sent their sleek, needle-shaped raiders. For a time, the gathered captains argued over open comms, threats, insults, and demands traded like laser fire. Then someone made the first move. A Yalath raider extended docking clamps toward the drifting hulk. The moment its magnetic arms touched the hull, everything changed. The black metal shifted. The hull unfolded like origami, panels sliding apart to reveal glowing lines of blue light. The ship was not derelict. It was waking up. The fleet scattered into defensive formations. Sensor alarms blared as impossible readings flooded in, energy levels spiking beyond measurable limits, gravitational distortions rippling through the corridor. From the stellar wind, Captain Oren watched in mute horror as the alien ship's surface continued to reconfigure. What had seemed like hull plating was now clearly weapon arrays, each one bristling with shapes and angles no known engineer could explain. A voice crackled across every channel. Human. Come. Cold. You should not be here. The words cut through the void like a blade. No one replied. Every captain present knew instinctively that this was not a bluff. The Valerian Ascendancy made the mistake of trying. Their cruiser Radiant Spear locked weapons and fired a full spread of plasma torpedoes. The missiles never reached the target. They simply disintegrated mid-flight, reduced to clouds of molten fragments. And then the killing began. The black warship moved faster than anything that Psi should be able to move. A pulse of invisible force tore through the Yalath raiders, ripping them apart at the molecular level. The Kreth destroyers fired railguns at point-blank range, only to be annihilated by thin beams of light that sliced them clean in half. Valerian shields collapsed instantly under weapons no one could see. The wreckage drifted, glowing faintly from residual heat. For minutes later, the battle was over. The stellar wind had survived only because it had never approached the warship. Oren's crew sat in stunned silence, watching the devastation unfold. The battlefield was now a graveyard of burning hulks and shattered hulls. Then the warship turned. It pivoted with eerie precision until its massive prow faced the stellar wind. Oren's hands tightened on the controls, his heart hammering. There was nowhere to run, hyperspace drives needed time to spool, and his ship wasn't built for speed. The voice returned. This is your first and last warning. Tell the galaxy, Earth is off limits. Oren swallowed hard. Understood, he managed to whisper, though he wasn't sure if the warship could hear him. Apparently, it could. Go. The black vessel's weapons dimmed, its glowing lines fading back into shadow. It drifted back to its original position in the corridor, folding in on itself until it once again looked like a lifeless derelict. Oren didn't wait. He pushed the stellar wind's engines to their limits, fleeing the corridor with what remained of his crew. The message spread faster than the council could contain it. The survivors told the same story, a human ship, impossibly advanced, hidden in plain sight, willing to slaughter entire fleets without hesitation. The words "Earth is off limits" became a whispered mantra in ports and barracks alike. At first, the Galactic Council dismissed it as spacer superstition. But the evidence piled up, wreckage fields matching the Braxian incident began appearing in other sectors. Always the same pattern, fleets destroyed in minutes, 1 or 2 survivors left to tell the tale, and the same warning broadcast across the void. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, fear took root. Merchants began avoiding routes near Sol space. Smugglers refused jobs that brought them within 3 jumps of Earth. And militaries quietly restructured their patrols to skirt the edges of the Forbidden Zone. But not everyone believed. A year later, the Zorak Imperium sent a fleet of 70 warships directly into the Braxian corridor, determined to prove the legends false. They never returned. All that came back was a single escape pod, carrying a Zorak pilot-driven half-mad. His only coherent words, repeated over and over, were, "They are still watching." They never left. The council eventually stopped sending expeditions. The Braxian corridor was marked on all star charts as a restricted zone. Officially, the reason was gravitational instability. Unofficially, everyone knew the truth. Somewhere in that black expanse, a human warship waited, patient, silent, and deadly. On the edge of the corridor, in the cockpit of a smuggler's scout craft, a young pilot stared into the darkness. For a moment, he thought he saw it, a shadow against the stars, a faint blue glow tracing alien lines across an impossibly large hull. When he blinked, it was gone. But he knew. The first and last warning was not a bluff. It was a promise.